Okay. So, my namaskars to you all. Those who are not seeing this live, we had pranamantra and this stream got disconnected. So, taking further from there, we are at the last class was conducted on 13th of February. So, it is almost 3 months and 10 days. So, almost 100 days later, we are resuming our discussion which was going on. So, as you might be aware, there were several reasons. That one was Mantra Diksha, and then after which was over, there were some other engagements, and then I went on leave for 1 month. So, coming back to our topic at hand, so we are discussing here the verses in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Dhyana Yoga, the way of meditation. Now, if you see the last lecture, and literally you can see it on YouTube, I myself watched it today to get myself grooved in the discussion which was going on, very candidly expressing. क्या विजय? तो करना है कि नहीं क्लास की? So, in the last class, we had discussed this 29th and 30th verse of this 6th chapter. And in that class, I gave a lot of time to see this transition, how this the flow of ideas from verse number 23rd, what Bhagwan is saying in 23rd, 24th, 25th, and up to 29th verse. So here in this 27 and 28 verse, we see that Bhagwan is expressing or extolling what kind of stage a yogi reaches practicing this yoga, which is thus described in these verses from this from 23rd to 26th verse. So, by these verses, that prashanta manasam henam yoginam sukham uttamam upaiti shanta rajasam brahma bhutam akalmasham, and 20th verse, yunjan evam sadatmanam yogi vigata kalmashah sukhena brahma sansparsham atyantam sukham ashnute. So, I quite deliberated on this last portion, that this idea that where it takes the practice of yoga, it takes to that spiritual aspirant, to that yogi, to such a state. And how can we understand it, or what can we understand from this phrase as Brahma Sansparsham? Now, but when this discussion is going on, the Bhagwan, he brings in the another idea, thought. So, Sarvabhutastam Atmanam Sarvabhutani Chatmani Ikshate Yoga Yuktatma Sarvatra Samadarshana. This is the 29th verse. Now, so I had deliberated upon this idea that how that Atyantam Sukham Ashnute, from that point onwards, how does this idea crops up? Sarvabhutastam Atmanam Sarvabhutani Chatmani Ikshate Yoga Yuktatma Sarvatra Samadarshana. How does this idea from Atyantam Sukham Ashnute, that enjoying that extreme happiness, Atyantam. I explained the meaning of this word also. What does Atyantam, if it is dissected as per Sandhi Vichhed, what can it mean? It can mean infinite. Ati Antam, transcending end, transcending the whatever is the last thing, Antam, transcending that there is no end. That is the meaning, Ati Antam, that there is no end. That means that it is infinite. So, Atyantam Sukham Ashnute. Ashnute, as I had said, Ashnute means as if, it means literally, it means eating. That in that context, I had expressed this idea that Sukha, what he is enjoying, is so tangible, is palpable. It is compared to eating. That eating is probably the most grossest of the pleasure every being has. Every being consuming food. One of the most basest of the enjoyment. Most basest of the pleasure. Every kind of being have it. Isn't it? This is the highest stage. This is the most ethereal kind of pleasures. Bordering on the verge of ethereal, non-material. Brahma Sansparsham, living in the vicinity, with the immediate vicinity of the Brahman. Brahma Sansparsham. Sukham Atyantam Sukham Ashnute. That he is as if consuming, as if it would be something, some tangible thing. Like we can eat something. We feel it in the mouth. It goes and feels in our stomach. We feel that we have had stomach full of something. So, how from such kind of experience, this, as I said earlier, that this yogi only will have it. You can at the best be witness of it. That he is experiencing such an exalted state of mind. You can at the most be witness of it. You can at the most watch it. It will have a profound experience, no doubt. A profound impression upon you. Even to witness, even to be in the vicinity of such a soul, such a Mahatma, such a yogi. That is another case. But nonetheless, it is his pleasure. Now it is totally his. It is internal. That experience. It will spill over his countenance, his face. But when he comes down from the stage a bit, how does he carries himself into the world? What is his behavior like? A question Arjuna had asked in the 2nd chapter, when Bhagwan referred to the Sthita Prajna. So he asked, who are these people, Sthita Prajna? What are they like? How do they sit? How do they talk? Sthita Prajna se ka bhasha, definition. Who are to be called as Sthita Prajna? One who has steadied their mind, steadied their intellect. That which is never wavers. Sthita Prajna se ka bhasha. samadhistasya keshava, the one person who has this samadhi, who is to be called as Sthita Prajna, ka bhasha, kima sita vrajeta kim, how do they sit, how do they move into the world. So this he had asked. Now in the similar way, when Bhagavan, and I had also said to you earlier that we have always found as if that is Krishna's mind or Krishna's character. He goes to the ideal, he takes that wherever that thought, he can take it to the highest, and then again comes down to the practical. And again, these cycles we see that in his course of this discussion, this goes on. Where he takes that thought very high, sukhena brahma sansparsham, atyantam sukham ashnute, and then he says that how does it translate into the outer world? Sarva bhutastham atmanam. He starts from there. Sarva bhutastham atmanam, sarva bhutani cha atmani. That now see here something wonderful. This sarva bhutastham and atmanam, this is the second case. This is the second case. And sarva bhutani chatmani, this is seventh case. Saptam vibhakti. And this is dvitiya vibhakti. Now, what does it mean? How does it translate into language? How does it translate? So, first vibhakti is a subject, and second vibhakti is object. So Rama is first vibhakti pratham, karta, and Ramam is karma. Okay. So when second vibhakti is used, so second vibhakti is used when it is when something is acted upon, then it is karma. Who is actor, who is acting, that is karma. So sarva bhutastham atmanam. Now this verse, this phrase exactly you will understand in the 32nd verse. It will come, we will take that. I will refer back to this verse. So when it is to be acted upon or acting with the world to other beings, sarva bhutastham atmanam. So when you are treating, when you are relating to all other beings, then you act like that. That in all beings, there you are atmanam. In this atman which you see is within, you see it in all beings. Sarva bhutastham atmanam. Sarva bhutani. This is not only that you see yourself in all beings. So एक जगह पे in our trains, because India has to suffer a lot of poverty and lack of education, lot of torture and atrocities. So people, this is in pursuit of the self-defense and self-preservation, a person has to become very narrow-minded and selfish. This is very much the situational, that contextual effect that has affected Indian masses so much. When you have ample and you have no dearth of things, you can afford to be liberal. One person who is still very miserly, in spite of that, that is some special case. But this profound poverty this starvation. This has pushed the masses in that way. So, and this prolonged period, generation after generation, decades, years, and centuries. Now it changed a behavior pattern of the people. Now I am setting this background because I remember of words of Swamiji. He said about the Indian people, he said that even their vices are rooted in their virtues. I like that very much. And it gave me a new lens to look at so-called the vices of Indian civilization. And from then I came to revere this land and our culture and our civilization in a great light. When Swamiji went to the western land and he spoke only the great things, he never vilified his countrymen, which was generally a trend even today. Now from this holy platform I don't want to mention and take name of such people. What would you say to that person who go to the other public platform and condemn, criticizes and ignominifies your own people, your own family? How do you see that person? I do not have reverence for such people, so person, not a iota of respect. However, that was something Swamiji, he was starkly different from all the people who preceded him, who talk about Indian civilization, something the positives of it without being apologetic. Without being apologetic. He was Hindu, he was Indian. He was representing our culture, our values without being apologetic. This sister Nivedita stressed and said to their nationalistic leader that stop being apologetic. People are still apologetic even today. Even within India's platform, to say something that this is ours, this is who we are. You do not have sufficient pride and sufficient guts and sufficient confidence to own it. Because perhaps it will hurt someone. So at that, now saying that is something, it reminds me of Swamiji, that is the greatness of Swami Vivekananda. This, and I do not say, I do not know if I can say, I should say, or I would, but my soul would be eternally grateful to Swami Vivekananda that he showed that light to me. Now, the example which I wanted to cite, with respect to this context, Sarva Bhutastham Atmanam, in Indian railways, it is written there. रेलवे आपकी संपत्ति है, आपकी निजी संपत्ति है. इसकी सुरक्षा और सुव्यवस्था आपकी भी जिम्मेदारी. Something of that sort, that this railway is yours, your own property. Deal with it means its safekeeping and its orderly manner keeping of this property, of this train, bogie, toilet, whatever the facility we are using. That is also our nascent responsibility. Now some fellows, means in the toilet, that mug also has to be kept tied to a chain. Because somebody is thinking, because it is our own property, so let us carry it. So he can take away some bulb or something, or take some linen which they have been offered in AC compartments, because it is your own personal property. So Sarva Bhutastham Atmanam. So not in that sense. So In the Bible, that word comes, that phrase comes, love thy neighbor as thyself, or look at thy neighbor as thyself. That you will deal with others as you will like to dealt with you, as if you are in that situation. So basic message of having kindness, compassion towards others, the basic virtues, the basic goodness and values in any civilized world, it should be. So societies together, they can be only formed having this element of consideration for the weaker, who are the less fortunate. Now, here idea is something very higher. It is shown this ethics and this morality, where it comes from, what is the root of that ethics and morality, why I should do good to others. Because its root lies in this realization that ultimately I may not have understood, I may not have grasped, I may not have comprehended, I may not have realized this, I may not have reached up to it just yet. But this is the truth, and it has been told by those who have come down from there, who have reached there and come down, and they have told, this is the thing, that sarva bhutastham atmanam, that you see that your being atmanam, in all being, sarva bhutastham, you look yourself, that, and sarva bhutani cha atmani. Now this idea, how does it translate? That Swamiji's 4 lectures are there at the end of Jnana Yoga, practical Vedanta. This is very profound idea, and this would be something, this is the realization of the yogis who has reached this perfection. It would be very difficult for us, next to impossible for us to practice it, because I do not have that realization. I cannot pretend to, I cannot feign, or I cannot show off to live like that unless I have realized that. That's why it is called as Samadarshitva. He sees that, he lives that, he has become that. It is not some concepts of dogma, it is not a ritual to practice. However, as this there is one this commentary on Bhagavad Gita by, I forgot, he's one of the very famous Tika. Anyhow, he says that the realization of the perfected beings is also the sadhana for those who want to attain that perfection. So if I try to practice that, I will reach that perfection. So how do I now correlate this idea? And as Swamiji puts it, Swami Vivekananda puts it, the practical Vedanta, making Vedanta practical. Sarva bhutastham atmanam. Now, on the one side, I am yet to realize it, and second time means it should be the way to go forward. Now this in the context of this 29th verse, I also had brought up this idea of this present day equality, which is many a time a part of discussion in various political platform or issues related to social justice and all that. So, what is the idea of Gita? What is the idea of Gita? And whether it is practical for us, whether we can think or consider it for practice, how we can approach this subject, and how we can see this idea of equality in modern day context. That would be something which we must dwell upon and think and figure out and chalk out our way. So, in this context, a few remarks or a few ideas I will like to bring across. Sri Ramakrishna sides give this example, that two examples he give. That one example of a young student who has learnt this idea that God is present in all beings. So at one side there is people are shouting that, oh, please get away from the road. That elephant has gone rogue, he has gone mad. So move away from the street. And this new student of Vedanta, who has now newly learnt this thing, and he is, as he is a young, he is a true believer of it, he is not crooked. He says, I believe that God is also present in the elephant. And he does not move from the way. And what has to happen happens. Elephant comes and he take the boy with the trunk and throw it away on the side of the road. He is injured. He is hurt. Now, Sri Ramakrishna is saying that as the God is present in the elephant, so is also present in the being who is saying you to move away from the elephant. Why didn't you listen to that Narayana? Narayana is present in the elephant, right? Narayana is also present in the controller of the elephant, Mahut, the driver of the elephant, who is saying, who is shouting that move away from the road. Why didn't you believe that Narayana lies there also? So how do you take equality? What is the meaning of equality? Sarvabhutastham atmanam sarvabhutani cha atmani. What does this mean? So one thing in particular I find very effective in understanding of these conflicts. That is the definition of Swami Vivekananda when he is asked, what is morality? And he says that whatever unselfish is moral and whatever selfish is immoral. Now bringing that idea here, that as so far you are not driven by your self-interest to extend your self-interest while trampling on others, so far as it is moral. If you are not extending your self-interest. Now, while dealing with others, while dealing with practicing this great message of our scriptures, if it is not motivated by our self-interest, this pettiness, this selfishness, then it is based, this equality is based here. That Atman, that consciousness, that is one consciousness that is thoroughly enveloping everything and permeated everything. In that exists everything. Now that consciousness is am I, that I have realized that the true nature of me is that pure, untainted, unconditioned, undefined consciousness. I am that, and that is present in every being, and in that consciousness making a body mind a complex, and there is I am seeing that play. So when that person is banking on this most fundamental truth, which is the product of that realization, which is the product of that highest experience, now he is bereft of all clinging and ideas of self-protection, self-defense and self-preservation, and of any sort of any self-interest or selfishness. And then that person, when he deals with others, person who is driven by selfishness, another example we see in the life of Swami Abhedananda. You know that incident in Kashipur at the time of Shivratri, Sri Ram, this Swami Vivekananda, Narendranath Then, he transferred spirituality into him, and overnight his total constitution as if changed. Sri Ramakrishna said that it is like as if a fetus, a pregnancy of 6 months is aborted. Can you imagine that? What is the meaning of that? That every individual has a unique, special spiritual character, and with that character, that individual is developing. We see that in the beginning, Swami Abhedananda, he is more interested in yoga. He is asking, when he first came to Sri Ramakrishna, that was his question, can you teach me yoga? That was his interest. Sri Ramakrishna said to him that I will teach you. You come on this and this day, give me this oil massage when I am before bath, and I will teach you, etc., etc. Even for the pursuit of it, he had ran away from the Kashipur in search of some yogi. That was his nature. Now he is all of a sudden, after that experience, he is talking about Vedanta. But to have Vedanta, so, and its ideas to assimilate, to digest, even for that, such a person of such a high caliber, such a high spiritual status, it took him a while. Somebody reported about him that Kali Abhedananda, what he is doing, he is in that Kashipur pond, he is catching fish. And when somebody objected him that, Arey, you do not do that, and he is quoting Bhagavad Gita to him, Nayam hanti na hanyate, etc., that Atma is Ajar Amar, and this body only transcends, so nobody dies, etc. He is giving. So it is erroneous logic, isn't it? It is erroneous logic. That is not how it to be supposed and how it is to be applied. Do you understand? So, the highest truths of this Vedanta, it could be erroneously applied, like that petty-minded passenger in the train, because this is your own property. So he is taking the small things, whichever he can carry from the railway compartments. Sarva bhutastham atmanam. So this equality, this is based on this fundamental truth, unequivocal truth, the crux of the Upanishads, that what is the true nature of human being. And then on the best of this, then everything else, everything material, gross or subtle, on the plane of physical of your body or on your mind, is irrelevant. It's immaterial. This you understand, that a person like Buddha, that this part most Swamiji quoted, that when somebody was to slaughter a small lamb, Buddha offered to give his own flesh, own head. He said, you cut my head, relieve the lamb. He didn't say that he is Buddha and he has a big mission before himself. He has to go and preach the truths which he has found. This idea didn't crop up in his mind, that he is something extraordinary person. Even for a lamb, he is ready to sacrifice. And let go, forget that who will guide and who will, that he needs some time to prepare to wind up his affair. All these ideas didn't cross even for a second in his heart. That is Sarva Bhutastham Atmanam. That this world and its all experiences, pleasures and pains of this world are but an illusion and all but a play in that consciousness. In this dream they are true, but the person who has tasted the reality, who has known the reality beyond this dream and still being within the dream, he is trying to do as much good as possible. There is no mission, there is no agenda, there is no obligation that he must do. He can see and feel the pain of others and try to ameliorate. If at least, as Swamiji says, at least say some few good words. And even if you cannot, then fold your hands and stand aside. Do not criticize, do not condemn others. Do not patronize or condensate others. Do not show them lowly. You cannot bring any good, any positivity in others by this way. This is Sarva Bhutastham Atmanam. Is this practical? Yes, this is practical. Banking on this idea, you do not have to become Tukaram. You cannot. At least what remains within your limit, do not try to be intentionally evil. Is that possible? That is possible. You can preserve your self-interest, you can do. Without trampling on the interest of the others, you can care for others. You can less care for others. You can let go. Many a times you can let go. You can let go material interest. You can let go of your psychological interest. Somebody is saying so much, talking too much. You can keep quiet. You can listen to him. You need not always show his or her fault. You can do that. You can be sympathetic. You can be considerate. You can bear some pain. You can do that. Sarva Bhutastham Atmanam. Sarva Bhutastha Sarva Bhutani Chatmani. So, you live in all beings. All beings live in you in the sense that there exists nothing apart from you. That everything has been created, this whole world has come to exist from within you. It exists within you. You are that. So, one way you are immanent, that immanent God present everywhere. And then one way you are transcendent, that you transcend everything. You are so big. So, raising our standards, raising our level, raising the level of our consciousness, living on the higher plane, that is spiritual life. Sarva Bhutani cha Atmani. That is spiritual life. And what not all magical nonsense. This is what Gita is talking about. Highest. Sarva Bhutastham Atmanam Sarva Bhutani Chatmani. It can be translated. That's why we see now Holy Mother's life for most of the other people and most of the what other and non-other people. Many a time, how in a big way it is underestimated. How spirituality looks like, how God lives on into the world on a plane of a human being. It must be like Holy Mother. That who has no agenda, who has no show off, who has no glamour, absolutely, that you will consider him most ordinary. Now I will say that is the highest spirituality. Even Sri Ramakrishna is and Swami Vivekananda, they are to be found sometime displeased with the behavior, ideas of others. And mother is so considerate, as if she is nothing. She is like a fool. And means saying, consenting to every small and big whims and fancies of ours. She has no show off. What spirituality should be like? It should be it should be casted in the mold of Holy Mother's life. If we are to be spiritual, if we think we have to become spiritual, what we must look at? Not Sri Ramakrishna and Vivekananda. I cannot. They are like this one, what you say, showroom piece. They are not working models. They are not working. This is the working model. This is what we are supposed to become. Our standards of spirituality must be matched with what Holy Mother has said. What we must become. Every day, so most of us, means like young men and women, they are attracted by Swamiji's ideas, then slowly gravitate towards Sri Ramakrishna. And then this, I always used to say, this is how I put it. If you are intellectually sound, rationally disposed, you can appreciate Swami Vivekananda, you can understand it. Further than that, unless you have spiritual sanskaras beforehand, you will not be able to appreciate Sri Ramakrishna. You have to have something of your previous life. Without that, you cannot appreciate Sri. You cannot catch hold of him. You will not gravitate. But to get the grasp of, hold of, and some taste of what Holy Mother is, then you must have performed. You have to perform some serious japa, dhyana, meditation, this sadhana. You have to follow that pursuit of spiritual life for some 10, 15, 20 years. Without that, you will not be in position to appreciate truly where lies the greatness of the Holy Mother, Sarada Devi. Sarva bhutastam atmanam sarva bhutani chatmani. Now see, take this one line and take the life of Holy Mother. Then we get the grasp of it, how for us ordinary people it can pave the way to live this idea. Yes, you will have to make sacrifices, you will have to accept the changes. You will have to part away from your old habits of self-defense, self-protection, self-preservation, self-furtherance. Ami korechi, maine kiya hai. I am so big, I am so good, I am so nice. ये रोग तो इससे तो निजात पाना है, तो चेंजेस तो लाने पड़ेंगे. वो दैट चेंज इज गोइंग टू बी डिफिकल्ट, इट इज सफोकेटिंग, इट इज गोइंग टू बी अनकंफर्टेबल, इट हैज टू बी. You are trying to wriggle out of your skin. It is not going to be easy. You must understand this. You have to accept, and this has to be uncomfortable. This has to be uncomfortable. So, now that is the idea. This is the great gems, these nuggets of truths which found in the Bhagavad Gita and our scriptures. So, this idea, this is something very core, and it will come again and again. Sarva bhutastam atmanam. So, our ideas of equality lies here. That every person is different. Every person's needs are different. Every person is born different with his own set of previous sanskaras, karmas, prarabdhas. Not all people will be able to become all, they cannot with one parameter. Equality cannot be to put them, to cast them into one stringent straight jacket to make them all appear and behave equal. They are not. Recognizing their variance, their differentiation, their uniqueness, and dealing with them accordingly is the true equality. Respecting the differences of others